When your sales feel inconsistent, your delivery feels heavy, your marketing keeps changing, your team cannot move without you, and every decision somehow ends up back on your desk, the obvious conclusion is that the entire business is broken. It is not. Usually, one part of the structure is forcing everything else to compensate. And because every part of the business is responding to the pressure differently, it looks like you have five separate problems. You do not. Welcome to the Aligned Edit. This is Veronica Dietz. I'm the founder of Taiki Digital Agency and a business advisor who helps founders identify what is actually misaligned before they spend more time fixing the wrong thing. This is the show where we look at the patterns that keep smart founders stuck and name them clearly enough that you cannot unsee them. Let's edit the noise and look at what's actually happening. This week, we are doing something I have been building towards for a while. So it's 5 episodes, Monday through Friday, one question running underneath all of them. What is actually governing the problem? Not the problem you can see, not the one that is currently waving at you the loudest, the one underneath it, the one that has been quietly producing all the others while you fix things that were never load bearing. And today we're starting with the moment every founder recognizes when so many things appear wrong that the business itself starts to look like the problem. It's a really frustrating moment, and it's most of us find ourselves in that space where we're saying, just burn it all down, just start fresh, just throw it all out. And I watch this happen constantly inside businesses that are not failing, are not obviously broken, and are also not run by people who do not know what they're doing. They're run by capable, intelligent, driven individuals. So these people know exactly what they're doing and are still somehow stuck. And that's what we're going to get into. So here's the thing that I find genuinely fascinating about the way founders relate to their business or businesses. When several things appear wrong at the same time, the instinct is to address each one, which sounds completely reasonable. The website gets rewritten, the offer gets adjusted, the contractor gets replaced, the calendar gets reorganized, someone installs a new automation, someone suggests a funnel because someone always is suggesting a funnel. Each fix will make sense in isolation. So each one is defensible. Each one produces a task list and a sense of temporary momentum to a solution. And then a few months later, the same pressure is back, just in a different form. However, it's the same weight. And the founder is standing there thinking, I addressed this. I hired for this. I spent money on this. I spent the entire weekend rebuilding this inside of a project management tool that nobody is actually using. So why is this still here? Here's why. When the same pressure keeps returning after you have addressed what looked like the source, you may not be dealing with several separate problems. You may be dealing with one arrangement inside the business that is generating all of them. So that is a structural problem, and it is very different from a business problem in a very specific way. It's also very overlooked. So a contained business problem responds to a contained solution. A structure problem absorbs the solution. It redistributes the pressure and produces another symptom somewhere else. A structure problem eats solutions. You address the symptom, the pressure redistributes, and 2 months later, you're standing in front of a different symptom that is being produced by the exact same source. And if you do not know that is what is happening, you will spend a very long time being extremely productive inside the wrong diagnosis. Let me give you some signs. I want you to listen to each one as evidence, not as a checklist. There is one here that is going to make you feel slightly seen in a way that is not entirely comfortable. When you feel that discomfort, that's the one worth sitting with. That's the one worth taking in and thinking about during and after this episode. So, sign one, every solution creates more work for you. Sign one is about solutions increasing operational complexity. So the team member was supposed to create capacity. The platform was supposed to simplify communication. The funnel was supposed to improve sales. The scalable offer was supposed to reduce your delivery load. And you are now managing the solution and the original problem. Same workload, but now there is a Slack channel attached to it. The team member needs more direction than expected. The automation breaks in a way that nobody can explain or figure out. The funnel needs 6 emails that exist only as a concept. The scalable offer requires a backend that is currently a beautiful idea sitting inside a Google Doc titled something like Phase 2, Version 7. The thing was supposed to free you, and it has now become another thing that you're responsible for holding together. This is not automatically evidence that you can choose the wrong person or platform. It may be evidence that the solution was placed inside an arrangement that could not support it. That the new person was handed tasks but not authority. That the platform digitized the confusion rather than replacing the process. A solution cannot create capacity if you are still required to interpret, approve, repair, and carry every single part of it. That is the business giving you structural feedback, and it is worth reading it that way. The first sign is about what happens when you add support. The second is about what the business has already learned to extract from you. So sign 2, the business works, but only when you overfunction. This one is so quiet because technically everything is running. Sign 2 is about the founder's invisible labor hiding structural weakness. Clients are served, revenue comes in, deadlines get met. People may even be telling you how impressive it is that you manage all of this. And you know that if you pulled back even slightly, something would wobble. An email would get unanswered, a client would not know what happens next, a project would still sit still, waiting for you to carry it to the next stage. So you cannot take your hands off the business because the business has quietly been built around the presence of your hands. The wobble is not proof that you care more than everyone else. And it is not proof that nobody else can meet your standards. It is, however, proof that your extra labor is concealing what the business cannot reliably hold without you. I know that is a difficult thing to sit with because your competence has probably saved the business more than once. You notice what other people miss. You can read the room, read the client, read the project. You know which detail actually matters and which one is fine to let go. Those are real skills. The problem begins when those skills stop being an advantage and become the infrastructure, because then the business does not merely benefit from your intelligence, it depends on your constant availability to access it. Sign 3. Several people are doing their jobs and the business still cannot move cleanly. So you hired, you delegated, there are people handling the marketing, handling the admin, handling the delivery, handling the client communication. Everyone is busy, everyone has a task, and yet nothing moves without friction. Projects stall, between stages. Information lives in three places, none of which are the right place. Someone completes their piece, and the next person does not know it is ready. So the team can execute, but nobody knows who can decide. You become the bridge between every contractor, every department, every half finished handoff, and every question that should have been answerable without you. That's a lot. And at some point, you look at the payroll and think, why am I paying all these people and still somehow doing everything? Sometimes the answer is performance. I'm not suggesting every structural problem is a spiritual invite to avoid admitting someone simply is not doing their job. That's not what's happening here. Sometimes the people are not the primary issue. Roles can be clear while sequencing is completely unclear. Tasks can be assigned while decision ownership is missing. And someone can know what to do and still not know what they're allowed to decide without asking you first. Everyone can be working hard while the business lacks a shared path from one action to the next. Busy is not the same as coordinated. Help is not the same as support. And having people is not the same as having a structure that allows those people to produce something together. Sign 4 is the visibility problem. So, the visible problem that keeps changing. 1 month, it looks like a sales problem, then a positioning problem, then a capacity problem, then the team, then the website suddenly feels wrong, then you think your audience has shifted, then you wonder if you need to launch something new, then you circle back to sales. Structural problems are hard to identify because they move through the business wearing different costumes. They show up wherever the business is under the most pressure in any given season. Slow month, the structural problem presents as a marketing problem. Busy month, it presents as a capacity problem. Launch period, it presents as a back-end chaos. Team transition, it presents as communication. And sales conversion, it presents as unclear positioning. Same structure, different costume. And this is how intelligent founders spend years trying to solve something. You are not imagining the visible issue. The sales problem is real. The capacity problem is real. A symptom can be real without being the correct place to intervene. Once you understand that, you stop asking, is this a real problem? And you start asking, is this the problem creating the others? Because those are two very different questions. Sign 5, growth keeps exposing a problem you thought you had already solved. So a new client comes in and delivery gets shaky. A post performs well and the sales path cannot hold the attention. The team grows and the communication becomes harder instead of easier. Revenue increases and somehow your personal workload increases with it. That does not mean growth is bad for the business. It means growth is revealing what the current structure was only able to hide at a smaller volume. Growth does not repair a weak structure. It actually gives it a microphone, a platform, and a spotlight. So let me give you something from a recent client work project to make this really concrete and less abstract and more realistic. I have been working with an art gallery, physical location, talented artists, a website, events, social media, amazing talent. The work on these walls is gorgeous, creative, unique, all of it. And depending on where you looked, you could identify an entirely different problem. Someone focused on search would say discoverability. Someone in e-commerce would say they need online purchasing. Someone in social media would say they need stronger promotion. Someone in sales would say they need a better buyer conversation. And none of those observations would be completely wrong. That is exactly what makes this so hard, because they are all plausible. They could all produce a task list. They could all keep several people very busy for several months. They could all produce an invoice from someone who is confident they have identified the issue. But the real question was not which area needed attention. The real question was whether there was a structure that reliably moved a stranger from discovery to interest to trust to purchase. Whether the pieces connected or whether they were just standing near each other hoping chemistry would happen. Because you can have 12 artists, a physical space, a website, events, press, social media, and genuinely quality work, and still not have a system that creates movement. You can own every ingredient and still not have dinner. Having assets is not the same as having a structure. Having an audience is not the same as having a path to purchase. And having an offer is not the same as delivery model that can hold more clients without you becoming the emergency backup for every stage. So, what do you do when you're looking at the business and everything appears to need attention? You stop counting symptoms. I know that feels irresponsible. Founders love a list. I'm a list girl. A list gives the chaos less shoes and sends it into this organized, beautiful little structured rows and columns. And you get to check off as you move along or cross it out and feel accomplished. But when every symptom immediately becomes a task, you can end up extremely productive inside the wrong diagnosis. Instead, ask, which of these, if genuinely resolved, would change the conditions producing the others? It's not the loudest one, not the one that matches what someone is trying to sell you, not the one that lets you stay inside work you already know how to do. Which one is load bearing? Which one is forcing the others to compensate? Which decision, if made cleanly, would make the other decisions easier? That is where the work belongs. And sometimes you will not be able to identify it from inside the business, not because you lack self-awareness, rather because you are standing too close to the machinery. You know why every decision was made. You know the client who created the policy, the contractor who disappeared, the launch that did not work. Every strange part of the structure has a perfectly reasonable backstory, a perfectly reasonable investment of time and money, your energy. So, which is exactly how businesses become museums of old decisions. Nothing looks removable because you remember why it was added. Here's what I want you to take from this today. When everything looks broken at once, stop counting symptoms. Look for the arrangement that is forcing all of them to compensate. That is not a small reframe. It is the difference between spending the next 3 months fixing visible issues and identifying the one decision that actually changes the system. If you're sitting with this and thinking, oh my God, yes, I can see the several things are connected, but I cannot tell which one is governing the other, that is exactly the work we would do in a direction session. You do not need to arrive with clean explanation or a correctly categorized problem. Bring me the list, bring me the brain dump, bring me the messy, bring me the voice notes that start with, this is going to sound all over the place. We find the load-bearing issue and we figure out what actually deserves your attention. The link will be in the show notes. Tomorrow, we are talking about the founder who says, I'll just handle it, and how the eldest daughter somehow ended up hiding inside of your org chart. Until then, talk soon.